Chapter 25. On the Run. When we get home, Daddy parks on the street around the corner from our house. Why are we parking here? I ask. In case the police come back. He turns his head left then right as we approach our house. They won't know we are home without coming to the door. As we enter our house, he adds, "We need to pack a bag." "What for?" I ask. "We are going to stay someplace else tonight." His tone is serious. Is this because of what happened at the police station? I hang my head. Yes, I'm surprised that they don't have this place under surveillance. I don't know what surveillance is, but it doesn't sound good. I head up to my room and try to ignore the spiders that are all over everything as I start pulling out my favorite clothes, books, and toys. Daddy comes in a minute later with a suitcase that is much too small to hold everything I have laid out. Only the really important stuff, Missy. It's only for a night or two. Clothes first, then one stuffed animal and two books. I pick out my favorite clothes and put those in. Then it is a difficult decision choosing between my two favorite stuffed animals that always sleep on my bed. They're small, they can both come, Daddy says, seeing my struggle. Yay, I say excitedly, stuffing them both in the suitcase. We both jump when the doorbell rings. I look up at Daddy in alarm. Be really quiet, Missy. Not a sound. He holds his fingers up to his lips. I nod my head. The doorbell rings again. Mr. Carter, someone calls out. Police. Maybe they don't know we are here, I whisper, wanting to hide under my bed. Shh. We wait, and soon there are no more sounds at the front door. Daddy pulls me to face him. Okay, we are still going to be really quiet. Pretend they are still there just in case. Understand? I nod my head, knowing that he is not this serious often. My heart pounds in my chest as I hope we won't be caught. We are going to go out the back door in case they are watching the front. Then we'll cut across the Martins' backyard. We aren't supposed to go there without asking. Mommy has told me this many times. The Martins have an amazing playset in their backyard, and I got in trouble for going and playing on it without asking once. This is kind of an emergency. I think they'd be okay with it if they knew what was going on, don't you? I nod my head yes. You ready? Ready. Daddy picks up my bag and carries it from the room. His is waiting at the top of the stairs. I follow him as he carries them both down. We walk very carefully, trying to be quiet. As quiet as a mouse, I think. Or as quiet as Fred. Fred never makes any noise when he walks. There's no shadow behind the glass of our front door. Apparently, the police officer at least went back to his car. I follow Daddy out the back and around through the Martins' backyard. I couldn't tell if anyone was home or not, but no one came out to scold us. On the other side of their house, Daddy very carefully peeks out and looks around. I think we're all in the clear. I follow him as he hurries across the street and around the corner to where our car is parked. I jump in and buckle myself while he throws the suitcases in the back. Ready? He asks again once he has buckled in himself. Ready, I say, giving a thumbs up. We check into a hotel room with one big bed, a chair, and a television. Daddy orders pizza and we watch TV until we fall asleep. In the morning, we go to a nearby cafe for breakfast. When will we be able to go home? I ask. I'm hoping this afternoon, after the bishop makes Fred go away. The way he says this makes me feel as if he truly, truly believes me about Fred now. He has pretended before, but something has changed, and he believes me. I look down at Fred, who is just hanging out at our feet halfway under our table. I can't imagine how heavy he would be now if I tried to pick him up. A tear slides down my cheek unexpectedly. Daddy reaches across the table and takes my hand. Why are you crying, sweetheart? I sniff and wipe away the tears, trying to be a big girl. I just wish things could go back to normal, that Fred was still little and could sit on my shoulder. I liked him then, and Mommy would still be alive. The tears return as I talk about it. And Becky would come to school and play with me. Why did everything have to change? I know I'm supposed to have the answers, Missy, and I don't. But it isn't your fault. None of it is your fault, okay? I use my sleeve one more time to wipe my eyes and nose. I think I'm done crying. Do you think the bishop can really make Fred go away? I can't imagine life without Fred, but I don't like the new Fred and would rather he wasn't around if this is the way he is going to be. Yes, he really can if anyone can. Part of what he does is make bad things go away, and then we'll go home and everything will be just fine. Promise? I promise. Daddy reaches across the small table we're sitting at and brushes my cheek. I smile back. Goodbye, Fred, I think, looking down at the 8 eyes peeking out from under the table. I'm done with you. Fred looks back at me with confident eyes, and a little ball of nervousness forms in my stomach. Can the bishop make him go if Fred doesn't want to? Chapter 26. Banishing the Demon. We meet Bishop Sanders and Father Lawrence at a giant church that looks like a castle. When we enter, a woman in a long black robe greets us and directs us back to a room where we wait for the bishop. Everything in the building is so ornate and beautiful. I can hear my mother whispering to me, "Now don't touch anything, Missy." I don't want to touch anything anyway. I feel like I've broken so much lately. I've broken people. We haven't waited long before another woman in black robes directs us into another room. I was expecting an office like the one where we met with Father Lawrence, but this room is not an office. On the walls are hundreds of lit candles. At the far end is a giant crucifix with Jesus on it. His face is pained, and a crown of thorns is on his brow. It feels very similar to the one at the church where Father Lawrence leads Mass, except that there isn't a pew or a chair anywhere. Everything is so beautiful, I'm in awe. There is a funny smell in the room from something burning, but I decide that I like it. Father Lawrence and Bishop Sanders are waiting for us. Father Lawrence is dressed in his Easter Sunday robes, but they pale in comparison to the white and gold robes Bishop Sanders is wearing. After blessing us, Bishop Sanders says, Father Lawrence has filled me in with the severity of your situation. I felt it best to skip the pleasantries and proceed directly to the abolishment of the demon plaguing your family. Thank you, Bishop Sanders, my father replies with a sincere nod. We both greatly appreciate that. He lets out a sigh. The bishop turns to me. And you must be Melissa. Missy, I say in response. Overcome with shyness, I pick at the hem of my shirt and kick the floor. Missy, is that what your friends and family call you? Uh-huh. The bishop has a very kind smile, and I begin to feel at ease, even with all the funny clothes and jewelry he is wearing. All right, Missy. We are friends today because I'm going to help you as friends and neighbors should, as Jesus the Messiah would have done. You do believe in our Lord and Savior, yes? Yes. I move my chin up and down. Very good. Now, what was the name again of this thing that is plaguing you? I call him Fred. Is Fred with us now? He looks around. Yes, he's right there. I point to my right side, where Fred stands like a dog healing its master. But I know better than to think that I have any control over him. And are you ready to say goodbye to Fred forever? His eyebrows raise. Again, I feel a pang of sadness at losing the only friend that I have left. But this version of Fred is not my friend. I look down at him and gaze into each of his eyes in turn. I look at his fangs, which never used to bother me, but of late have begun to hurt me. I look up at my father, standing by my side. I still have him, and if I don't get rid of Fred, then Fred may take my father too. I turn back to the bishop. Yes, I'm ready to have Fred go away. Then we'll get started. Now, so both of you know what to expect. I don't think Fred is going to leave without a fight. He believes that Missy belongs to him. We all know that Missy belongs to our Lord and Savior, and we need to return her to the protection of our Good Shepherd. The bishop addresses my father next. You may be required to restrain your daughter if the demon resists too much. He holds his hands up as fists before him. Hold tightly to her, no matter what happens. Are you able to do that? We shouldn't interrupt the rite once we start. That could leave her open to worse dangers. I can do that, my father vows. The bishop turns back to me. Are you ready, Missy? I take a deep breath and put on my big girl confident smile. Ready. My father holds my hand. Bishop Sanders and Father Lawrence recite a prayer together and cross themselves. I don't understand them. They are speaking in a funny language. Just yesterday, Father Lawrence was asking me if I spoke any other languages. Maybe he should ask himself that. Bishop Sanders begins chanting now by himself in that funny language. He has a beautiful metal ball on a chain that he is gently waving. It is smoking and giving off that funny smell I noticed earlier. Father Lawrence has a dish of water and is using his hands to sprinkle me and the floor around me with water. Both men are constantly moving about the room, never standing still for long. I don't notice anything at the beginning. I'm intently watching the two men, wondering what is going to happen. I wonder if Fred will disappear or just walk from the room. Closed doors don't affect him. I've seen him crawl under one, even at his current size. I glance down at him, but he is just sitting there, seemingly unaffected. He seems sure of himself, like the way the bullies at school always seem so sure of themselves. Panic begins to creep inside me, twisting and pulling at my insides. I begin to worry that this won't work. Fred isn't going anywhere, and he knows it. My eyes turn back to the two men. Bishop Sanders is speaking a little louder, and Francis Lawrence is muttering his strange words under his breath. I'm about ready to tell them they can just stop. It isn't working, when I feel a vicious bite halfway up my calf. I cry out in surprise and pain. My favorite clothes that I had packed from home were mostly dresses and skirts. The skirt I was wearing now came to my knees. Below the hem and trailing halfway down the lower part of my leg is a very noticeable red mark. Bishop Sanders looks to my father as if to remind him of his earlier vow, but he doesn't break his chant. But her leg! My father gestures to it as he holds me close. Bishop Sanders gives him a warning look and a shake of the head. The chant continues unbroken. Fred lunges at me again. I see it this time and attempt to pull my leg away from him as I scream, but my father squeezes me tightly. I'm stuck. The bite draws blood this time, and a few drops stream down my leg. Bishop Sanders starts chanting more loudly and forcefully. He waves the smoking metal ball closer to my legs. Fred dodges it and lunges at me again. Make them stop! I scream and begin crying uncontrollably. Can't you stop this? My father calls out to the priests. Fred's fury increases as the bishop speaks louder and louder. My legs are being covered in bites and are bleeding in several locations. I'm leaning against my father and trying to fight Fred off with my feet, but it is as if he doesn't even feel me. Stop! 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 I scream. Then, without even thinking about it, I yell out to Fred, Stop them! Immediately, the bites cease, and Fred backs away from me, his body pulsing. The priest continues as before for a few more moments. Then, one after the other, without stopping their chants, they begin to bat at their clothes. No, oh no, I moan as I remember my mother doing that before she died. Then Bishop Sanders begins clawing at his throat, leaving long red marks and even drawing blood. What's going on? My father asks, confused. What's happening? Neither priest has the air to respond, though. They can no longer speak. Their faces are turning blue. What is happening? My father yells at them while clinging to me. Fred's killing them, I whisper, but it was loud enough that my father heard. And then I think he understood after having seen the same thing at the police station. Fred won, I think. I'll never be free of him. This brings its own tears to my eyes. It had been working, too. That is why Fred needed them to stop. It was working, and I ruined it. I let the spiders kill the priests who were helping me. but I imagine that Fred would have killed me before the priests made him go away. There is a horrible, raspy sound as the two men, now on the ground, struggle to get just a little air into their lungs. They reach out to us for aid, their dying eyes full of horror. "We have to go," my father says, lifting me and carrying me from the room and the cathedral to the car. He buckles me into the back and we drive from the church. A few miles away, we pull into a drugstore. He carries me in and buys hydrogen peroxide, cotton pads, ointment, and bandages. "What happened to her?" the clerk asks, seeing my bloody legs. "Blackberry bushes," my dad says without hesitation. "Ah," the clerk says with understanding. "It's not as bad as it looks," Daddy adds. "Looks pretty bad to me. You might want to take her to the hospital and see if she needs stitches." "Yeah, I was going to evaluate that when I get it cleaned up and can see it." "You're a brave girl," the clerk calls out to me as we leave. Back at our car, my dad uses the hydrogen peroxide and pads to clean the blood off my legs. It has stopped bleeding now. "You are a brave girl," my dad tells me as he puts the ointment on. "Not brave enough," I sniff. He looks up into my eyes. "Don't say that. Why do you say that?" "It was because of what I said. I told the spiders to stop the priest. But I didn't mean it like that, Daddy. It just hurt, and I was scared. And Fred was being so mean." He listens without a word, just stares into my eyes. When I stop, he responds after brushing my hair back and holding my face between his hands. "I don't blame you. It was an awful thing for you to have to go through. Understand?" I nod my head, wanting to believe him. "Good. Let's get you buckled in." We head back to the hotel room and sit in silence for a while. Chapter 27. Cat and Mouse, from Fred's point of view. It really is quite delightful to watch all of the ways that these humans come up with to try to stop or get rid of me. I'm having a wonderful time and am enjoying each feast that comes my way. And the expansive feeling that comes as my body gets larger, nothing beats that. I was cramped for so long. The priest bit was good, too. These humans are resourceful. Not that the priests had any power over me. Still, it's fun to make the humans think that they did. Give them a little glimmer of hope now and then. I look around me at all the soul spiders that shake under my gaze. As I add to my collection, it's fun to watch the newcomers when they realize they cannot escape me. They're helpless to go more than a few yards from me. After being dragged a few times, they quickly fall into step. Chapter 28. You. I sleep for hours. When I wake up, it is dark outside. I feel groggy and my body is so heavy. Dad had ordered pizza, but it is nearly cold now. I eat a piece anyway. There's more silence than I am comfortable with right now. I need to be reassured, to know there is a plan. As I gnaw on the crust, I look down at Fred, who I imagine is already larger from his lunch today. He'll be even bigger in the morning. How big can he get? Until he'll fill a whole room? I picture Fred large enough to take up the room we are in and shudder. "What's wrong, Pumpkin?" Daddy rubs my back soothingly. I turn and look at him. I was going to tell him about my thought of Fred as large as the room, but a more pressing question finds its way out. "What are we going to do now?" Dad sighs and rubs his forehead. I. He stops and massages the scruff on his chin for a moment. We. He sets his hand down reassuringly on my leg. "We are going to be okay, Pumpkin." "How do you know?" "Because we are going to figure this out. Maybe we just need to approach it from a different direction." "How will we find it?" "We keep trying. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to make Fred leave. Maybe if we figure out what he needs, he'll leave on his own." "How will we know what he needs? I already tried to feed him a cricket. He didn't want anything to do with that." My father thinks for a moment. "Have you ever talked to Fred, Missy?" Silly question. I've heard you talk to him so many times. But did he ever answer you? I nod my head sadly. No, he's never said anything. I think now. Never really out loud, but I've heard him in my head. I know it was him. He said it when he was looking right at me. My father's face lights up and his eyes get big as if he is excited by the news. But I'm scared to tell him what Fred wants. I'm afraid of what it might take to get Fred what he wants. What did he say? I whisper it so quietly because I don't want to say it. I couldn't hear you. A little louder. I still say it quietly. He said, feed me. I watch my dad's face to see how he'll respond. He remains calm and thoughtful. Okay, so we just have to figure out what Fred wants to eat. I frown. I know what it is. He eats the people, or something like that. Each time someone dies, he gets a little bigger. He's really big right now, Dad. I don't want to feed him anymore. Maybe he needs a certain number or a certain person. I can't imagine why that would make a difference. But my dad is a lot older and a lot smarter than I am. Maybe, I admit. But how do we find out? Let's try asking him. I shrug my shoulders. I'm not going to try to stop him. You are going to have to do it, Missy. You are the only one he shows himself to. I groan. I don't want to have anything to do with Fred. Do I have to? Yes, no one else can do it. He only speaks to you. I nod and turn to Fred. Fred, will you tell me what you want? I stare into each of his four main giant eyes in turn, waiting for a response. We really want to know, Fred, and we'll try to give it to you. I turn to my dad. It's not working. Try saying it out loud. I look back to Fred. Fred? It's weird to say his name out loud in front of my dad. Remembering what I do when I want something from my parents, I make my voice sound as sweet and innocent as possible, almost like I'm talking to a baby. Fred, will you tell me what you want? Please. We want to know. We can't help you unless you tell us. I glance back at my dad, but he just nods in encouragement and gestures back to Fred. I sigh but turn back. Fred. Fred used to be my friend, my dearest, closest friend. I loved him more than all my toys and books combined. Maybe he will respond if I treat him as such. I stand up and walk over to him. Then I sit down next to his head, cross-legged as if I'm sitting down next to an old friend for a talk. Fred, I say, reaching a hand out to touch his front leg. I thought that he was soft before when he was little. He is softer now. I stroke his leg, hoping that he likes it. Fred, we were friends, the best of friends. I catch my breath, remembering how important Fred used to be to me. Come on, Fred, I plead. Why are you making me do this? You have to tell me. I'm starting to cry now. I turn and look into his nearest eye. What is it? I stroke his leg again. What do you want? I search his head for anything. What do you need? There's a slight movement as several of Fred's eyes focus on me. I hold my breath, waiting, knowing I am about to get an answer. Once we know, we can figure out how to end this nightmare. Fred can leave in peace, and Daddy and I can live together alone. I look around at the remaining spiders. There are still plenty left, but I can tell that there are fewer. I'm sure they'll leave too when Fred does, but I welcome that now. The ordinary spiders that don't follow me around will be enough. My daydream fades as I realize I'm still waiting for an answer. In a quiet voice, as if passing a secret to a friend, I say once more, What do you want, Fred? In a cold, harsh voice, I get my response, You. I scramble away. Me? What do you want with me? I'm panicking now, imagining Fred locking me away in a dark, dirty spider hole. I turn from Fred to my protector. Daddy? His mouth is agape with surprise, but he jumps up to snatch me up and holds me tight. He looks down at the floor where I've just been sitting, petting Fred. "What do you want with her?" he yells. There is no response. "What do you want with her?" he yells again. There is a banging on the wall behind us, and it makes us both jump. We hear a muffled human voice coming from the other side. We can't understand the words, but we know they are voicing their displeasure at being disturbed. My father begins to pace with me in his arms. "No," he says, "I won't let him have you. You are all I have left. There has to be something else." He turns to the floor where Fred hasn't moved since he spoke to me. "You can't have her," he says loudly. It isn't quite a yell, so as not to disturb our neighbor, but it is very strict and stern. It is a voice that Daddy reserves for times when he is really upset at someone. Fred just sits there gloating. It makes me think of someone who is a poor winner. My mommy always told me it isn't polite to be a poor winner. Why didn't Fred's mother teach him manners? And not to torment little girls. My father's arms around me tighten for a moment. "You don't have to worry, Missy. I won't let him have you. We'll figure this out. I promised, remember?" I nod my head to appease him, but I remember all the people who couldn't help us. The doctors couldn't help us. The police couldn't help us. The priests couldn't help us. How was my daddy going to do it all by himself? I was just going to have to help him. Chapter 29. Tomas. We drive for an hour or more before I recognize where we are headed. "Why are we going to the beach?" "Because it's the closest place that I know of to find a certain person." We drive down the main road through town, and I look at the familiar sights. This is where we always come when we go to the coast. Only last time, Mommy was with us. Normally, I enjoy looking at the shops with their colorful kites in all shapes and colors flying in the wind. We'd often stop at gift shops that had wooden carvings of bears and totem poles in their parking lots. My favorite was always the candy shop, where I could get gumballs by the pound in a little brown paper sack. But we aren't here for fun today, and I wonder if we'll ever have fun again. Not as long as Fred is around. Fred is the stealer of fun, I think. He has taken away so many precious things from me. My best friend, my mother. Now we can't even go home because the police are looking for us. All I have left is my daddy and my little stuffed penguin named Icy. We got Icy during a trip to the zoo when Mommy was still alive. Icy makes me think of a time when my family was complete. I never carried around stuffed animals all that much because I had Fred, who was much better to me in my mind than any toy. As I squeeze Icy close now for comfort, I don't think that she holds any grudge. We pull into the parking lot of a place we have never been before. I always noticed it when we would drive by because it was much different from the rest. There were lots of bright, flashy lights on the outside. One neon light was just a big single eye staring out at you. Another was a round ball that Mama said was a crystal. And the third was only a hand. When I would ask Mama what kind of business it was, she replied, "Just a place with a person who tells people lies in exchange for their money. So why would Daddy be stopping here?" "What are we doing here, Daddy?" "We are going to see if they can help us. Maybe they can talk to Fred, reason with him, get him to change his mind or agree to something else." He lets out a deep breath and rubs his eyes and forehead. "I don't know, but it can't hurt to try." I wrinkle my forehead, trying to understand. "But Mommy said they are just a bunch of liars." "I know, and maybe they are. But something I read keeps coming back to me Once you eliminate the improbable, however unlikely, is probable. Does that make sense?" I repeat the sentence over and over in my head and then shrug my shoulders. Too many big words. But I can't let Daddy get discouraged and feel like I think this is a bad idea, so I give him some support. "So maybe they don't lie all the time?" I suggest. "Exactly." He nods his head with a smile. It's good to see him smile. Can I bring Icy in? Icy? My dad asks, looking in the back seat at me questioningly as I hold up my stuffy. Oh, the penguin. Yes, the penguin can come in. I squeeze Icy tightly and follow my daddy into the weird shop. It's dark inside, and there's a strange smell that reminds me of the stuff the priests were burning. I decide I don't like the smell. It makes me think of death now. I'm hoping we haven't brought death to whoever is inside, even if they are liars. The place is bursting with stuff. Clutter, my mother would call it with disapproval. She never liked clutter. There are figures on shelves all around the room. Some of them look similar to statues and pictures we saw at the cathedral. Candles, lit and unlit, are on every surface and every wall. In the center of the room, though, is a round table, big enough for 3 or 4 people to sit at. Atop the table is a long, deep purple tablecloth topped with a smaller golden one. In the middle is a small squat holder, like something you would set a candle on, one of those thick candles that stands on its own. Hello, a smooth voice calls out from the back of the room. Relax and make yourself at home. A man glides out from behind a doorway filled with strings of beads. A funny hat perches on top of his head, and his colorful baggy pants flap when he walks. In the palm of one hand is a marble white ball, bigger than a softball. Looking at how silly he is dressed, I wonder why people would believe anything he says in the first place. He reminds me of a clown that forgot its face paint. Suddenly, his face lights up as if he has recognized me. He swoops his way over and kneels in front of me, his eyes wide. It is a strange move, but I'm not afraid. He doesn't seem evil. He brushes a stray strand from my face and says in a quiet voice meant for just the two of us, So, you're the spider girl I dreamed about last night. I'm not alarmed, but I look up at my father questioningly. I know he heard what the strange man said. You dreamed about my daughter last night? Daddy asks urgently, stooping down to look the young man in the eyes. The man reaches out to the floor and gently coaxes one of my spiders onto his hand. I'm amazed that he can see them, much less touch them. What an interesting gift, he muses. Then he addresses my father's question. I often dream about the people who are going to come to see me. Sometimes they come the next day, sometimes they come in the next year, but they always show up. He sets the spider back down. So, can you see Fred? Daddy asks. The man closes his eyes and turns slowly around the room. Fred, Fred, he says in a thoughtful tone. When he opens his eyes, he looks back at me. Nope, no Fred. I only have an M name in my head. Melinda or Melody. I'm Melissa, I blurt out, hoping that is the name he is thinking of. My family calls me Missy. Melissa, he says, holding out his hands prayerfully to me in gratitude. That was the name. So why has Melissa, Missy, come to see me? We were hoping you could help us, Daddy says. The man holds up his finger with a little shushing noise. He closes his eyes again and takes some small swaying steps about. You have come to see me because something is following you. Something you want to be rid of, but you don't know how. My father moves to respond, to confirm what the man has said, but he stops himself. I'm sure he remembers how the strange man responded before. The man continues his weird little steps around the room. You want me to talk to Fred? He opens his eyes and turns to both of us for confirmation, a pleased look on his face. You want me to talk to Fred for you? Yes, Daddy responds, his face beginning to relax and even look eager. My father is excited, so I begin to feel hopeful. My body begins trembling with expectation. Maybe this was the right place to come. This man hasn't told us any lies so far. How much will that cost? Daddy asks. The man's voice sounds much more normal as he responds. We'll authorize a credit card for $100 and agree on a final amount when you leave. If you are unhappy with my services or I am unable to help you after an hour of trying, then we'll call it even at 100. I have the slightest moment of sadness as I know that $100 is a lot of money. Mama always got real serious when you talked about something costing $100. She would say, "We don't have that kind of money." Does Daddy have that kind of money now? Done, my father says without much hesitation, and I breathe a sigh of relief. The man runs my father's credit card on a small machine at the front corner of the room. When that's done, he comes back and sits at the far end of the table, setting his white ball in the middle on the ornate gold stand. Let's get started, he announces, motioning for us to sit down. Oh, by the way, my name's Tomas. I'm excited about Tomas. I believe that he knows how to talk to Fred, even if he can't see him. The fact that he can talk to the other spiders is enough for me. Missy, you've known this Fred for quite some time. It felt like a question, even though it wasn't phrased as one. I knew I was supposed to answer. Yes, I say, kicking my legs back and forth under the table in a mix of anticipation and relief. We are going to finally find out how to make Fred leave Daddy and me alone. He started out much smaller than he is right now? Yes, I respond again. It's like Tomas is seeing our story without being told. He'll understand it so much better than I could ever tell him. Mommy and Daddy could never understand because they couldn't see it. Tomas can. Tomas's eyes suddenly are mostly white as his hands hover around the marble ball in the middle of the table. In response, the ball emits a soft, cool glow. Suddenly, Tomas's calm demeanor turns to shock, and he seems to pull himself out of whatever state he was in. His eyes return to their former green, and he shakes his head around as if trying to shake something off. He looks suspiciously at my dad for a moment. Then his gaze settles on me. He gives his head another quick shake, almost like a dog. Okay, we need to establish something, Tomas says. His voice is no longer smooth, his demeanor no longer calm and collected. I saw something, but I need to know if it means anything to either of you. Sometimes I see things that were left here or have not yet arrived. He looks at both of us to see if we understand. Daddy and I exchange a quick look, then turn to Tomas for an explanation. I'll draw a picture, Tomas says. He jumps up and grabs a piece of white computer paper and a colored pencil. It's imperative that you both are perfectly honest with me, he says as he draws. It is of utmost importance that you tell me if this picture means anything. He looks up at us with intensity in his eyes. Anything at all to either of you. His hands are drawing quickly and dramatically, making long strokes across the page at times. I feel like a great secret is suddenly to be revealed. My hands clench into little fists that tremble and shake as my heart begins racing. Tomas knows what Fred is, why he is following me, and what to do about it. We are so close to having an answer. Yes, of course, my father agrees. I hold my breath, waiting. Maybe Fred will listen to him. Finally, Tomas quits drawing and takes a moment to stare at his work. I try to sit up taller to see what he is seeing. He makes another circle with the pencil, then another. Finally, he turns the paper and pushes it across the table for Daddy and me to see. Staring at me on the page are 8 large eyes and the top of Fred's now menacing fangs. Fred, I whisper. The picture's eyes are much kinder than Fred's have been of late. Tomas pushes back from the table, banging into the wall behind him. That's Fred, he says, pointing vehemently at his drawing. Yeah, I respond without a thought. I wish that I could take the picture home. It looks how I wish I could remember Fred from here on out. You guys gotta go, Tomas says, pointing towards the door. Wait a minute, my dad exclaims. You have to help us. You can see Fred. You have to talk to him. Not so fast, Tomas responds with a raised index finger. You don't understand. My horoscope warned me about octets this month. I gotta stay away. He shakes his head. Your horoscope? My father bellows. Yeah, I can't touch this Fred shit. Tomas holds up his hands in surrender. My father's voice is a more normal volume when he continues, but I know he is trying to restrain himself. This shit, he points violently at the drawing before us, has been stalking my daughter and my family. It killed my wife. The police are after us. And you can't deal with it because of your fucking horoscope? I have only heard my daddy use that word late at night when he thinks I'm asleep. Yeah, Tomas responds, folding his arms. I'm not going to touch it because of my fucking horoscope. I never go against the stars and I'm still alive. You wouldn't believe the shit I've seen in this line of work. This line of work? This isn't work. My father stands up now. I realize that he is taller than Tomas, who seems much shorter than he did when we came in. This is a scam. Scam? I've been in pretty intense danger because of my abilities. If you know what I've been through, then you would know why I'm not willing to go here. He points at his drawing. My father's anger fades and his head drops. My daughter is in extreme danger because of this Fred. He looks to Tomas with pleading eyes. Please, I don't know where else to go. We spoke to Fred, and the only thing he will admit to wanting is Melissa. I'm not going to let him have her. I don't know where else to turn. I don't know how to add to my father's argument, but I want to support him. I walk around the table to Tomas, take his hand, and look at him with my little girl eyes. I don't have to say anything. It melts Daddy's heart every time. Tomas looks at me first with pity, but it melts to acceptance. Okay, I can't help you. My heart drops. But I may know someone who can, Tomas admits. My cousin, Talitha, she knows how to deal with unfriendly spirits much better than I do. We have different birth months. Fred shouldn't be an issue for her. How do we get a hold of her? My father asks. She lives just outside of town, doesn't have a phone. I'll have to drive you. Let's get going, Daddy says. Sure, we gotta settle up here first. Let's call it an even 300. What? My dad exclaims. Well, it only seems fair. 100 for the reading, 100 for the finder fee, and 100 for the lift. My dad glares at him, but then he concedes. What other choice do we have? If this cousin of yours turns out to be no better than you, I'm reporting you to the police, the Better Business Bureau, the City Chamber of Commerce. Tomas holds up his hands in surrender. Whoa there, cowboy. My cousin ain't no joke. You'll see. He heads back over to his little machine to make sure Dad's credit card goes through. We're good to go, he announces. Let me escort you to your savior. Chapter 30. Talitha. Talitha is an ancient soul, Tomas explains on the drive. Talitha lives more than just outside of town. We have driven across a river, up a side of a mountain, and are just now proceeding down a very bumpy gravel road. Our family moved here after the Salem witch trials, Tomas continued. Our great great grandmother barely escaped being burned. All the family secrets were handed down from generation to generation. Talitha is a much better scholar than I ever was. Tomas laughed and looked at my father expectantly, but my father was not in a laughing mood. I didn't understand enough of the conversation to know if it was laugh worthy or not. But if my father wasn't laughing, then I didn't need to either. Anyway, did you hear about the lost Medlock girls? They were walking home from school and disappeared. The family didn't see them for 2 days. Father was accused of molestation and covering it up. My sister found them. The older sister, what was her name? Michelle, that's right. They cut through some woods on the way home and got turned around. ended up about 20 miles out of town. Michelle got her leg caught in a bear trap. Her little sister Caitlin wouldn't leave her. Talitha found them before the authorities could. The wound was bad. Michelle might not have survived much longer. Talitha saved her life. Tomas looked at my father as if he should be impressed by the story. I was impressed. Talitha saved a girl, 2 girls. Maybe she could save me. But I felt like I kept clinging to reeds that were pulled from a soft riverbank whenever there was pressure applied. All of the people we'd seen so far that were supposed to keep people safe had failed. Was Talitha going to be any different? But then the car pulled up to a little log cabin. It was covered on one side and the roof by a thick moss and looked as if it had just grown out of the ground from a fairy tale book. The cabin stood alone in a small clearing surrounded by trees, and sitting on the porch as if she was expecting company was a girl. Well, she was more like a woman. I didn't know how to think of her. She was definitely an adult, but she felt so warm and comforting, like I felt when I used to play with Becky. "Welcome, Missy," I heard her whisper as we pulled in. Her eyes are white like Tomas's were in his trance, but hers don't change to a different color. I realize as she isn't directly looking at us or the car that she is blind. I barely wait until the car stopped before I jump out and ran into her welcoming embrace. She smoothed my hair and kissed the top of my head. She kissed my dad's cheek and welcomed him by name. She patted Fred's head. It felt like family. "I have dinner on the table," Talitha said. We follow her into the cabin to find a cozy table set for 4 in front of a fire to chase the chills away. The table is set with food so fresh I expect it to have roots still attached. There's a roast chicken, corn on the cob, and ripe tomato slices with basil leaves. I had hoped for Tomas, but Talitha overwhelms me. "Let us eat and be merry," she cries out as she dances around the table. I frown, worried that she'll fall right into the open flame with her sightless eyes. Suddenly she stops and takes my hand by the face. "It is not I who should be worried," she whispers to me, but then she laughs warmly and dances about again. "I am the one who should be worried, worried about myself and my father." We all gather around the table and eat our fill. I'm hungry, but I can't stop my thoughts from racing. Is there anyone that can stop Fred? Can he be stopped? "Such heavy thoughts for a little girl," Talitha says. "We'll have some answers soon. Not tonight, but soon." Daddy and I sleep on the floor on a few blankets in front of the fireplace. Fred is at my feet. Tomas sleeps on the couch. I wake up in the middle of the night when I try to roll over and find myself unable to. Fred is laying on my feet and lower legs. I can't move. His eyes are watching me. His fangs rest on my leg. My heart rate quickens. Is he going to randomly bite my leg? Is he going to keep getting bigger and bigger until he can swallow me whole? I've never been so afraid of a spider in my life. But then I no longer believe that Fred is just a spider. His position on my leg feels very territorial, like a possessive dog. Fred is claiming me, and I don't know how to stand up for myself to tell him that he can't have me. I try to wiggle my legs to pull one out from under him, but he's too heavy. If he were a dog of the same size, he wouldn't be so heavy. It isn't realistic that he weighs so much, and I try to tell myself this, as if that would make my legs strong enough to push him away. He just sits and stares at me. I almost feel like he's laughing at me, laughing at how weak I am, how I feel like I have any control left. Why doesn't he just take me if he wants me? He is strong enough. I would be defenseless as I am now. What is he waiting for? How many more people need to die? Is he going to kill Tomas and Talitha? I struggle against Fred a few more times, trying to free my legs. I can't move from my side, which is beginning to hurt from being too long in one position on the floor. I try to turn to my back, but that twists my torso as my legs are trapped, unable to move at all under Fred. I look at my father lying next to me. He is softly snoring. If I wake him up, can he help free me from Fred? But I don't want to scare him. Don't want to let him know that Fred is in control. Instead, I lie there uncomfortable for hours, waiting until morning. At some point, I must have drifted back to sleep because I awake to hushed voices. I sit up and rub my tired eyes. Fred is no longer on my legs, but he sits next to me. I want to tell him off, yell at him for being so mean last night, but instead I just glare at him. Talitha and Daddy are sitting at the kitchen table, quietly talking. Good morning, beautiful, Talitha calls out in her musical voice. Good morning, I say in a raspy, tired one. I was just about to give your father a shopping list. Tomas is going to drive you two back into town for the day. We'll prepare the potion, and then it will just be a matter of waiting. Waiting for what? My father asks. Until Fred starts talking again. We have to wait until he is ready. My heart pounds at the idea. But Fred only talks when he's hungry, and then he kills someone. It's true. Fred won't talk until he is hungry again, but I've had experience negotiating with spirits. There is always some way to get around what they are asking for. We just need to get to the bottom of what Fred really wants. You aren't his end goal, you are just a stepping stone on his way. Fred is an old soul. He has done this before, and he will do this again. We have to find out what will bring him peace, what will let him lay himself to rest. I look at Fred and realize that if Fred gets his peace, then I might get peace as well. Yes, I agree. What do we need? My father writes down the items as Talitha lists them. We need tarantula hairs, Talitha says. But I doubt that a pet store will just let you take some hairs. You may have to buy the whole spider. While you are there, we'll need a live mouse that will represent Missy. Also, the stinkiest cheese you can find at the grocery store. Munster or Roquefort. Fresh ginger root. I can't believe I didn't grow any this year. Salt, not the cheap iodized stuff, the real sea salt. Balsamic vinegar, and absinthe. I'll get the rest of the ingredients cooking while you are gone. I stuff myself on biscuits with homemade butter and raspberry jam before we head into town. The local pet store doesn't have a tarantula, so we have to drive an hour and a half to get one. I carry the mouse, letting my father carry the container with the spider. I've had enough of the arachnids to last a lifetime. We are back in our vehicle with a tarantula in one box and a mouse in another, when my father lets out a big sigh and rests his head against the steering wheel. What are we doing? He asks aloud. We are getting what Talitha told us to, I answer. Yes, but why? Are we really going to go back and ask a witch to help us? Rational people don't do that. I thought they said they were gypsies. Gypsies don't cook up potions with tarantula hairs. And whatever is she going to do with the mouse? I peek into the box at the mouse. I've decided that a mouse would be a much better pet than a spider. Hey, Dad. Yes, Missy. When we can go back home, can I get a pet mouse? They are pretty cute. I watch the rodent's nose move faster than mine ever could as it sniffs the air in my direction. I giggle a little at it. My father turns and looks back at me. If they make you laugh like that, you can have as many mice as you want. You haven't laughed in a while. I look up at my dad, my face now serious. Dad? Yes, Pumpkin. We aren't being silly. I want to reassure him, tell him that I think he is doing the right thing. I think Talitha can talk to Fred. I hope you're right. He gives me a nod and a small smile and turns on the car.